treatment on its own in generalized epidemics does not get you to our 2030 SDG goal. We can't expect to reduce incidence rates drastically by 90%, as the target is, just with treatment on its own. HIV is a silent infection, and so people who get HIV don't know they have it. And before they actually get to eventually having an HIV test, they've already spread the virus to others. And so we do need alternatives. And one of the alternatives is PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis. In other words, finding a way in which to protect the most vulnerable in our societies.
Lenacapavir is a long-acting, twice-yearly injectable. Now, the South African Health Department says it plans to roll it out in a select group of public sector clinics by April next year.
Lenacapavir, simply put in clinics and hospitals on the shelves of pharmacies, is going to sit there because those who most need it are least likely to go forward and take up pre-exposure prophylaxis. The highest risk individuals are the ones that don't understand, appreciate their risk, and therefore are not being proactive in seeking out PrEP.
There are at least 3 vulnerable groups where HIV infection rates remains high globally. This is despite the strides being made by science in the last 2 decades in particular to broaden the HIV prevention toolkit. Break down these groups for us.
Young women in Africa, where incidence rates remain recalcitrant. They just are stubbornly high. And even though they have been declining and have been steadily declining for over a decade, they're still among the highest rates that we have. So that's one group. The second is young gay men, particularly young Black gay men in the US, in Europe, and many countries, where they don't take up PrEP as in the same way that older gay men do. And so in the MSM community, the younger members are the ones that still have higher incidence rates. And we've got to do better in reducing that. And the third group involves Central Asia, Russia, and that area where incidence rates are currently quite high and stubbornly high. The programs that were in place politically, those have been compromised. So I think that across the globe, we've got to deal with those 3 groups if we are to achieve the 2030 goal.
2025 has been a tumultuous year following the United States funding cuts. They arrived suddenly, shockingly, and threatened devastating consequences. Some countries, in fact, were impacted more than others. Now, looking back as the recovery remains ongoing for many, has it forced a new era of independent African science, one that is sustainable, and forced a cutting off of dependency on a single donor?
I think the decisions of the US government and the Trump administration actually are a good wake-up call. It's a wake-up call because no donor, commits to giving you donations forever. There has to be some point at which it's going to end. And it's unfortunate that it ended in this kind of abrupt and somewhat cruel way. We needed to be much more resilient. Many organizations in many countries have actually done quite well. And I think South Africa particularly was pretty well placed. The government itself provided funding for research, for programs. South Africans will find a way to overcome adversity. And literally, that's what many have done. Some have not been as successful, and that's worrying.